Hello and welcome to today's webinar titled Healthy Women, the Effectiveness of Active Folate Supplementation by Gnosis by Lesafra. My name is Inge de Jong. I'm a senior journalist at Nutrition Insight. Nutrition Insight is a world-leading B2B news and insights website published by CNS Media. We are joined today by our expert speakers, Stefania Salar, Product Manager, Quatrefolic, and Professor Luca Tiano, a researcher in biochemistry at the Polytechnic University of Marseille. In a short while, they will discuss how modern lifestyle factors influence women's health throughout the various stages of life. Scientific research has demonstrated the benefit of folate in improving women's health, and Gnosis's active folate Quatrefolic supports women through adolescence, pre- and post-pregnancy, and menopause. In addition, Quatrefolic contributes to normal red blood formation, reducing the risk of anemia, which is prevalent in women. Before we get started, I'd like to remind our listeners that they can submit questions to our speakers through the Q&A engagement tool. Any questions that we don't have time to respond to during today's session can be answered via email following the presentation. The webinar will also be available on demand on nutritioninsight.com. A link to view the on-demand webinar will be emailed to you once it's concluded. With that, let's begin today's webinar with our speaker's presentation before we round off with the Q&A session.
Good morning and good afternoon. I'm Stefania Sala. I'm the product manager of Quatrefolic. So welcome to the Quatrefolic webinar. And we go through the agenda of this webinar. The first section is about context and market scenario. The second is about product trends. We go through with the application for folate and anemia thanks to experience of Professor Tiano, and we have finally the overview of Quatrefolic marketing tools. So, women are the primary caregivers of children and adults in every country of the world. International studies demonstrate that when the economy and political organization of a society change, women take the lead in helping the family adjust to new realities and challenges. Even more, women have always been health conscious, but the focus on the health and wellness has become even more important in the recent years. There are several reasons for this, but one of the most important is that women are now the primary breadwinners in many families. To be successful both at work and at home, it's essential that women take care of their health and well-being. Health affects every aspect of life, including physical and mental condition. The World Health Organization Constitution states that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. It was found that 75% of women are adopting a long-term approach to health maintenance. In fact, in our busy and modern life, it's easy to neglect our health and well-being in favor of other priorities. We take vitamins when we feel a cold coming on, for example, but as you know, supplementation is essential, especially if our diet is not balanced. Women have a more proactive approach to well-being today. And it is because 50% of the global female consumers are concerned about women's health issues. As can be seen in the boxes below, the supplement sales over the next 3 years will have interesting growth depending on the condition. For example, plus 14% for heart health, plus 70% in menopause, and plus 7% in general women health. The global market size of women health supplements market was valued at $23.8 billion in 2022, and is expected to expand at a compound annual growth rate of 5.3% from 2023 to 2030. The factor responsible for the increased preference for product use for health maintenance are two: the evolving female health trends and the woman growing awareness of health and nutrition. For example, women who previously used traditional health and beauty products to maintain and improve their appearance are now using vitamin as supplement for wellness. And so the vitamin segment is expected to grow at a significant annual growth rate over the forecast period. An interesting consumer survey on a dietary supplement explored consumer attitude about branded ingredients versus the generic ones. Among supplements users, 57% reports they believe branded ingredients work better than the generic ones. 7 in 10 supplement users say they have more confidence in using branded ingredients. Survey result reveals that not only do consumers trust branded ingredients, but they are also willing to pay more for them. Most supplement users agree that this product can cost more because they are more effective and of higher quality than their generic counterparts. So, based on age group, the market is segmented into age 15 to 30, 31 to 50, age 51 to 70, and above 70 years. The age 41 to 50 segment held the largest revenue share of 42.1% in 2022 due to increased knowledge of health products and the larger adoption of supplements and potential buying power. Women in the age group of 51 to 70 years are the largest consumer pool for multivitamins and mineral supplements. At the end, the segment over 70 years of age is likely to be the fastest growing during the forecast period. The increase in the geriatric population and the high prevalence of various lifestyle disorders are feeding the segment's growth. So we can summarize that the market drivers are increasing prevalence of conditions that affect women, emergence of the online platform for women health supplements, and fertility and pregnancy care that remain key for the woman health. Now we go through with the product trends. As you can see in the graphic, the 5-MTHF glucosamine salt is on the rise. 9 is the percentage of the 5-MTHF glucosamine salt launches in the global folate. The trend of the new launches with active folate is huge and growing fast. Products on the market claim more often active folate than just vitamin B9, and active folate is more attractive and innovative. And you can see the annual growth rate for active folate products is plus 24% during the last 5 years. So the woman health is one of the first place as a percentage of supplement launches monitored with active folate, after mental health and immunity, which got a boost due to the pandemic. For active folate, such as Quatrefolic, seem more important to be focused on specific needs and benefit, and more than half of active folate launches are vitamin and minerals, and then women's specialty supplements. So we give the floor to Professor Lucatiano in order to go deep with the benefit folate application, especially fertility and anemia.
Thank you very much, Stefania. My name is Lucatiano. I'm a biochemist and I teach nutrigenetics. So I'm deeply involved in these topics of nutrition and optimization of health. And following this overview on the market, we'll see why they are so important, what is the particular interest resulting in such a demand on the market and increase the interest on the molecule. So in general, what are folates? Folates are essential compound. They're vitamins. We do not produce them. We get them from the diet, and they are critical together with other vitamins, in particular the other B vitamins, in the biosynthesis of essential components of our biochemical compounds in our cells. So very basic, like from nucleic acids, protein, neurotransmitters. It is a family of molecules. It's not a simple one. So it's a structurally related family of compounds that are normally naturally found in foods. But in this form, they are not directly the active form that it's used by our body. They need to be hydrolyzed and they need to be activated. And this may cause some problems because due to the fact that the storage condition or even the cooking may decrease the amount of active folate, deficiencies of folate are actually very frequent, and we will see also depending on the genetic background of different subjects. That's why, in association with the very critical role they have for health, fortification strategies and supplementations have been used for a long time, since decades. Actually, the first form of synthetic folate that it's widely used, that differently from the dietary folate, it's very stable, was produced in 1945. And that's the folic acid that we normally find in many supplements and fortified food in different countries all over the world. As I was saying, this molecule has got several advantages. It's more stable, but in the biological terms, it is not active. It needs to be activated even more than dietary folate, and it has no biological function per se without this activation. Whereas the active form that it's at the end of the biological process of activation is actually 6S5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, which is the bioidentical basically to the quatrefolic form. So it's the quatrefolic basically consists of the glucosamine salt of 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. So it's bioequivalent with the form that it's normally produced by our body. Not only we see that we're talking now in particular about natal phases of life where folate are particularly important. We see that if we check the blood of the mother and of the newborn, we see that this form, the 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate in yellow here in the graph, accounts for over 80% in the mother and up almost 90% in the newborn. So it is providing this form. It's not only the form that it's bioidentical to the mother, but it's also directly bioavailable to the newborn. Now, I was talking before about this process of activation. What makes the difference between the folic acid and the 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate? We need several processing of activation. So there are specific enzymatic proteins that are able to process the dietary folate. And basically we have two reductive steps. We have the hydrofolate reductase and tetrahydrofolate reductase that are able to convert, methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. So these two enzymes that are able to activate the enzyme. So we have reductive and methylation step, basically. In this form is bioavailable. So what is the problem? That since the biochemical pathway proceeds as in a factory, like in a series of assembly, okay, an assembly chain, if we have an accumulation of one of the compounds or a slowdown of one of these processes of transformation, this may lead to a jam of the system and a decreased production of the active form. And in particular, this may lead also to the accumulation of byproducts, which is actually of concern now with folic acid because it's provided in large amounts. So per se, talking about the synthetic folic acid, we can already say that it has two problems. It's not the active form, needs to be processed, so it has a disadvantage. But on top of that, if we provide a lot, this may clog the reductive system. And it has been shown that most of the subjects, in particular in countries like the United States, where supplementation is basically in fortified food is commonly used, so it's somehow uncontrolled, leads to a large amount of unmetabolized folic acid in the plasma. Another aspect of that is that the enzymes that process, they may be working less. And these are like not genetic disease, but are actually genetic polymorphisms. So what does it mean? These are basically the variants that make human beings in general different. I mean, we have different characteristics. Someone has got blonde hair, some other is dark, blue eyes, dark eyes, and so on. And all these information are encoded in DNA. DNA is a little bit like a music script. The difference is that it's written only with 4 notes that are the nucleotides. And in the DNA, it's written basically our melody of life. What happens that sometimes one of these notes may be different. So we have basically 0.5% of all the nucleotides that differ from one subject to the other. And this is that's still compatible, of course, with a normal human being, but contributes to the variability. Sometimes these notes very rarely make the melody even better. Most of the time, they don't make any difference at all, but some of the time they are really off tune. So they are not genetic diseases, but this combination may be somehow detrimental. And this is the case, for example, of variants that are actually very frequent, up to 30% of the population of subjects that are not able to process very rapidly or optimally, basically, the dietary folate. There are several polymorphisms, these variants, and we see that the two major ones are the 677 CT and 1298 AC, basically, okay, CC, and TT also in homozygosity. So we have a T instead of a C, and for the 1098 we have a cytosine, a C, instead of an adenosine A, okay, and the combination of those may lower remarkably the functionality of these enzymes. And we see that actually only a limited amount of the population have a complete set, or like a completely functional set. Being in heterozygosity or even in homozygosity and combination of more polymorphism, we can have a significant parts of the population in different ethnicity that have a reduced activity of methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, and therefore they are at risk of folate deficiency, basically. So, therefore, the genetic effect is getting more and more interest in the last decade, affecting, as I was saying, over 40% of the global population. Okay, and this adds to other aspect of potential deficiency due to stages of life where we have an enhanced request of folate. So we need to take more because, for example, during pregnancy and lactation, the mother has to provide the folate both for herself but also for the newborn. Development in certain phases of life, we need more, but not only in the active phase of life, also in the elderly. There can be an increased request of folates in order to maintain optimal functionality of all of hematopoiesis and the central nervous system. Okay, so and this on top may match. So we have the dietary, the genetic aspect, the different life stages of life, and lifestyle habits that put us even more at risk of deficiency, like the use of processed food, Western diet, excessive alcohol consumption, or the use of certain drugs. I mean, this is like not lifestyle, but some drugs, they have an activity, the anti-folate activity. So altogether, these are, this brought the focus in the scientific community on the interest of folate supplementation and to optimize this aspect. So which are the applications? As I was saying now, there is definitely a very big interest in perinatal stage of life, because I will show in detail today, there are several evidence supporting the role of reduced folate in promoting fertility, ensuring healthy pregnancy, but also talking about women health, not only in the reproductive phase of life. There are also evidence that may be of support also during the menopause. In relation to cardiovascular health, that's not that interest all the both male and females. There are important application in cardiovascular disease prevention, as we'll see, by lowering particular homocysteine, optimizing, preventing anemia, and in the elderly, as I was saying, in supporting the biosynthesis of neurotransmitters, and in general in neuronal physiology, may have importance in cognitive contrasting cognitive decline and optimizing mental function and mood. But let's start from fertility, that it is actually a worldwide issue, as it has been addressed by the World Health Organization, not only in the old continent, but globally. There is a decrease in the birth rate. We are an aging planet, basically, and it has been reported that around 48 million couples have infertility issues. This may be addressed by several social factors, but also like people are the reproductive system is the one that ages first in our body, and we have progressively later and later start of setting up families. So it's normal that we have a certain degree of impairment, but in general also dietary aspects may be important. The Western diet, the contrast of certain risk factors such as homocysteine, where folate has an important role. And folate, reduced folate in particular, have been shown to help also in supporting in vitro fertilization and embryo transfer, which is a medical practice that is progressively used and providing lots of hope for couples wishing to have children and have problems of reproduction. So the folate levels definitely have a very important role, not only because through the one carbon metabolism, which is the biosynthetic process that supports the assemble of critical biological components in the newborn. For example, if we have reduced folate, they are very frequent, like neurology or like miscarriages or issues related neural tube defects and so on. So they are important, but also through its involvement in lowering the homocysteine, which is a modified amino acid that actually needs to be recycled to methionine, and in order to do that requires folate together with vitamin B12. And accumulation or like dysfunctional or not optimal folate status is clearly associated with increased homocysteine, with several detrimental effects in terms of oxidative stress, oxidative damage, largely associated with cardiovascular disease, but also clearly linked to fertility issues. And here we show, for example, that in subjects, homocysteine levels, we can measure them in clinical biochemistry easily, also because they are important predictors, for example, of atherogenic pathology. So we know that the homocysteine levels, they have to be below 10 micromole per liter. And in subjects that have increased homocysteine, it has been shown that, for example, providing reduced folate, it is possible to decrease homocysteine, normalize homocysteine level in almost 56% of the population in a quite large trial, taking 400 micrograms of reduced folate together with B6 and B12, whereas in a similar cohort, 5 milligrams of folic acid, of the synthetic folic acid, did not have the same efficacy. So how relevant is the genetic background in this respect? Well, clearly a lot. So if we check on average subject with variants of methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, so they have this sort of bottleneck in the activation and reduction of folate, we see that frequently we find on average an increased amount of homocysteine in plasma, and particularly in the homozygous subject. Here we see that it's more than in heterozygous, because they have two copies of the dysfunctional and gene encoding for the reducing enzyme. So it is interesting to see that quatrefolic treatment was particularly effective in this subject, highlighting its particular relevance in association with genetic background that are more prone to dysfunction, that, as I mentioned, are actually not rare. They are not diseased. They are expression of the human variability in the genome, and are very frequent. So it's large part of the population may benefit from that. In terms of pregnancies, I mentioned it lowers homocysteine. Homocysteine is associated with increased oxidative stress. It may have an impact in like miscarriages, problems in carrying out recurrent miscarriages, frequently that are maybe also difficult to address, but it has been shown that these were particularly frequent in subjects with a methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase variant, so linking it specifically to a folate deficiency. And it was shown that while in the subjects were trying for a long time to use without any success for folic acid, by taking 800 micrograms, the study was conducted on 33 couples with recurrent miscarriages. Taking 800 micrograms of quatrefolic, there was a massive, I say massive increase in pregnancies, almost 87%, both in natural condition or in association with in vitro fertilization embryo transfer, which is a particularly strong evidence, I would say. Another aspect which is important is the role of folate in anemia, which is another global health issue. So we're moving away a little bit from the pregnancy aspect. This anemia may affect children, but is quite frequent between 6 and 59 months. Women in general in association with period and postpartum women during pregnancy, and also in the elderly. There may be also problems associated with lifestyle or diseases like Crohn's disease, malabsorption in general. And so it is a multifactorial, I would say, disease that can be addressed also where nutritional aspects are very important. The main elements that are important is a combination of iron. Iron is very important in the prevention of anemia, but we don't need only iron. We need vitamin B6, B12, and folate. Okay. If we don't have enough folate in particular, we may have some sort of adaptation by the body that it's not, rather than produce enough red blood cells, they produce larger red blood cells, macrocytes, and this particular form of disease, it's called megaloblastic anemia, and it's particularly pernicious. And here we see that the prevalence of anemia among pregnant women worldwide, and we see that again, talking about pregnancy, is a particular where the women needs a particular care. There is an increased risk of anemia. But providing with the right combination of active folate, such as quatrefolic and iron, it is possible to reduce maternal anemia by 69%, and this is backed up by scientific studies, and also this as a consequence also in the health of the newborn, reducing the risk of premature birth, and leading, also contributing to a greater mean birth weight of the newborn. Anemia is not only critical during pregnancy, in the elderly, especially associated with problems of malnutrition, malabsorption, let's say, it has been shown that is particularly important. And also in this case, the right combination of vitamin B12, which is very important, and we'll discuss that also with folate, with reduced folate is critical. Why the combination is particularly important? Because the two molecules are essential, but not only to the anemia, also I was introducing at the beginning for the cognitive function in the elderly. It has been shown that synthetic folic acid is able somehow, in association with vitamin B12, to support anemia or contrast the development of anemia in the elderly, but at the same time, it might not be sufficient to support, also because synthetic folic acid, differently from active folate, doesn't go across the blood-brain barrier, does not reach the brain. It may be not sufficient to develop, to contrast the development of cognitive decline that is like more subtle and happens on a longer time scale. So this is an added value to the reduced folate.
Thanks, Luca, for your interesting explanation. And the last part of the webinar is about the benefit of folate around fertility and anemia in a sort of summary. So you can see the opportunity that is the prevalence in the population of the condition of infertility issue, and the clinical support benefit. And also it's more important to highlight that the European authority recognized the folate claims in fertility, such as folate contributes to normal homocysteine metabolism and folate contributes to the normal function of the immune system. So it's the same summary for the anemia, in which you can find the opportunity in the population, so the prevalence in the different segment of stages, and the clinical support benefit that they recognize the result, science-based. And finally, also in this application, the EFSA claims is that folate contributes to the normal blood formation. So the last slide is about an overview of Quatrefolic marketing support. As you can see, we have at your disposal the digital brochure in the different application, the monthly newsletter. So I invite you to subscribe our newsletter in order to have some highlights on Quatrefolic benefit and application, our website, our YouTube channel, in which you can find some videos and that explain in a few seconds and in a very clear way the benefit of folate in the different application. And finally, I invite you to follow us in the social official page, Instagram and Facebook, and stay tuned with Quatrefolics.
A big thank you to our speakers for the insightful presentation. Once again, this is Inga from Nutrition Insight, and I'll now host a Q&A session with our experts. Some great questions have already been submitted, so let's get started. Our first question is for Stefania Salah.
Yes.
What are the factors driving the women's health market?
So I think that there are many factors that are driving the women health market. And the first is the increase in the female population over the age 60. The second in the rise of unhealthy lifestyle habits due to our frenetic life. And the other is the introduction of the new drugs for women health. And finally, the growing awareness of certain disease and their harmful effect, and the possible method of early supplementary treatments. So they are likely to fuel the growth rate of the global female market in the coming period.
Excellent. Our next question is for Luca Tiano. Why does our body prefer active folate?
Thank you for the question. Well, our body prefer the active folate, 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, clearly over synthetic folate for several reasons. They are mainly related to its natural role in cellular process and the fact that it's in direct involvement in various biochemical reaction, whereas the synthetic folate needs to be activated first. So 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate is characterized by a direct usability, in the being the biologically active and natural form of folate found in the body. It does not require any enzymatic conversion to become active, and when it's ingested, it is readily used by the cells in various metabolic pathways without further modifications. So, while the 5-methyltetrahydrofolate is the crucial molecule in metabolic reaction in DNA synthesis, amino acid metabolism, remethylation of homocysteine, one carbon metabolism, biosynthesis, production of S-adenosine methionine. Synthetic folate needs to be transformed first into the active form in order to carry out all this critical function. So that's why it's better to shortcut directly to the bioidentical form.
The next question is for you as well, Luca. What does B12 deficiency have to do with folate?
Well, okay, both vitamin B12 and folate, which is also vitamin B, also known as vitamin B9, they are closely related because they are both essential B vitamins, in fact, that play critical roles in various functions of the body. In particular, the formation of red blood cells, maintenance of the nervous systems, and for example, in red blood cells formation, vitamin B12 is necessary for the synthesis of nucleic acids, DNA and RNA, but also for the maturation of the red blood cells, helping the conversion of components critical in the synthesis of hemoglobin, which is the oxygen-carrying molecule in red blood cells. Folate is essential for the production of DNA and RNA, and without the adequate folate, the process of cell division, including the production of red blood cells, is impaired. Another aspect that we discussed is homocysteine metabolization. They see both the roles of these two molecules. So vitamin B12 and folate are both involved in the conversion of homocysteine to methionine, which is an amino acid that is important for various biochemical reactions in the body. Not producing it leads to the accumulation of homocysteine associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Without sufficient amount of vitamin B12 or folate, homocysteine levels, in fact, can become elevated and with risk, as we've seen also for pregnancy. In neurological functions, vitamin B12 plays a role in the maintenance of the nervous system. It's necessary for the formation of myelin shelf, which is the protective covering around nerve cells. And folate is important for the proper functioning of the nervous system in the biosynthesis of neurotransmitters. So the interplay between vitamin B12 and folate is important in on all these condition at risk of deficiencies, but some may develop earlier than others. So if we take, for example, for anemia, even if we have vitamin B12, maybe also with folic acid, we have sufficient amount to mask, to support the red blood cell formation and contrast anemia. But we do not highlight pernicious vitamin B12 deficiency. They may happen with the nervous systems that has a longer time of manifestation in cognitive decline. So taking synthetic folic acid, we may think that we are protected, but we have in certain organs in the nervous system, we may be at risk of deficiency, a situation that does not develop with 5-methyltetrahydrofolate. That, by the way, is the only form able to go across the blood-brain barrier. Thank you.
Really fascinating. That's all we have time for today. I'd like to thank today's speakers for sharing their poignant insights and offer a big thank you to our viewers around the world for joining us.